Hey, what's up, Street Talks? It's Eric from the Eric Street Photography blog. So I just wanted to do a quick video with you, just thinking about some turbo thoughts about photography 300 years from now. So to me, this is a fascinating concept because I get from my buddy Nietzsche. He said, put the skin of at least 300 years between you and your contemporaries in order for you to create some sort of lasting monument. Horace, the poet Horace says, I want to create a monument more lasting than bronze. And Horace wrote this several thousands of years ago, and we still read his poetry today. So this is something that's really interesting to me because I think the human bias is to think short term. It's not natural for us to think long term, and I think for the most part this is good. You know the saying, you know, one bird in the hand is better than two in the bush or something like that. The basic notion is humanity, we've survived so long probably because we'd rather take the secure thing than to take a risk, an uncertain risk. So I think humans, we tend to be a little bit more on the risk averse side, even though maybe psychologically this doesn't apply to everyone. But the basic notion is we tend to not think about long-term decisions because, you know, we like immediate gratification. And I don't know, who knows, maybe part of it's sociological, part of it's society, blah, blah, blah. But I think it ultimately comes down to what your philosophy is what do you ultimately aspire towards. So for example, I'm starting to realize too is that, like, for myself, my personal life and my life right now isn't so important. What's going to be more important is how my ideas, thoughts, photos, philosophies, etc. is going to help future generations of humanity. And so I look back at my website, my blog, videos and stuff like that, think about what lasted and what hasn't lasted, and one reason I feel successful is because I've survived until now. So I started blogging and stuff when I was around like 21, 22, and I'm 31 now, so I've been in the game for a decade. I'm not going to get to Dr. Dre level till I could get at least 3 decades under my belt, but ultimately my aspiration is, you know, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years from now, maybe people still watch these videos or listen to my audio, look at my photos, read my thoughts and stuff like that, because I don't personally believe in a conscious afterlife, which means after I die, my soul dies with me. And obviously, you know, I'm not going to be able to reap the benefits of my personal legacy. However, I know it just helps me sleep at night, or it makes me happy to think that, oh, maybe one of my ideas or some of my photos or whatever could benefit future generations of humanity. I philosophized about this for a long time, and essentially my basic takeaway is, obviously we want to benefit ourselves, but ultimately what's more meaningful is benefiting others, benefiting humanity, and helping push the human race forward, however we decide to quantify that. And so thinking about photography life 300 years from now, so obviously we're still going to be making pictures on a spaceship in Mars, who knows. We're most likely probably going to be shooting with digital cameras, because imagine trying to develop film or buy film when you're on Mars. And I think the thing that I'm really interested in is this notion of existential photography. So I get it from my buddy Jeffrey Lamb, who's actually pioneering this notion of existential health. And the basic notion is, obviously we're going to still be making photos and shooting selfies until the end of time, but no one's really quite properly like philosophized like, why do we make photos and for whom? And even, like, you know, imagine you're on a spaceship and, you know, you might have your crew or whoever's on board, or you're on Mars, whatever. Maybe there's internet, maybe there isn't internet, maybe it's some sort of local network or something. Obviously we humans, we like to share. To share is a good thing. I'm so glad that Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey and shared that with others. It would be a great shame if you didn't, because once again I think we humans, what we're striving towards is to benefit future generations of humanity. And I'm starting to even realize in my personal life too is, I think in modern times, or maybe even history in general, we've always strove for more wealth, more power, blah blah blah, but that all fades. But what doesn't fade? Fame, ideas, thoughts, philosophies, great artworks. And so moving forward, something I'm trying to think about is, you know, artwork and life philosophy and motivation 300 years from now. So generally some practical ideas and tips is, you know, keeping your photos, your ideas and everything open source. The more open and free it is to share, the more likely it is to last. Other things, don't worry too much about gear and stuff like that, because that's like the new iPhone gets outdated every 8 months or so. And even when I look at my website, my blog, what has lasted, generally ideas on like philosophy of photography, motivation, interacting with human beings, blah blah blah. But what hasn't lasted, things about gear, equipment, stuff like that. So essentially less focus on equipment and gear, more focus on the philosophy on why we shoot photos. So ultimately just think about yourself, you know, why do you make photos? And also think about how you could position yourself where hopefully 300 years from now, 1,000 years from now, 3,000, 10 million years from now, people could still look at your photos. So what are your personal thoughts on longevity in photography? Feel free to leave a comment below and just share your thoughts. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Peace out.